Greetings on the Sunday, the 16th of October 2022. We're in the season of stewardship, a time when we give thanks to God for the gifts and resources that God has given us. And it's an opportunity to recommit ourselves to God's ministry and mission to the city through St. Paul's. When we talk about stewardship, it is about the stewardship of our lives, of all our resources, the responsible use of our time, money, skills, occupation, our future. Nothing is outside of God's concern in our lives and the world. Stewardship is about committing all we have to work for the realization and extension of God's kingdom on earth, God's rule of love, justice, and peace. In our parable today, Jesus tells a story of a widow asking an unjust judge for justice. This heartless judge admits that he himself neither fears God nor respects people. In a patriarchal culture that governed social norms, the widow would have been very much a marginalized person, a vulnerable woman, most likely with few resources. Yet she has the courage to repeatedly ask the judge for justice. And he eventually gives in to her because he does not want to be bothered by her any longer. The widow uses all her resources, her energy, her skills, and possibly financial resources to overcome the corrupt judge and obtain justice. Our image of God, how we imagine God to be, is significant in shaping how we live our lives, how we use what God has given us. God is very different from the unjust judge. Jesus says towards the end of the story, "And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them. God is just and merciful, and on the side of those who suffer unjustly." In our parish, we have worked at various areas of justice. I mentioned two: gender justice and opposing xenophobia. We have tried to model a community in which all are valued and welcomed, where all belong, men and women alike, and children, and those who are locals as well as so-called foreigners. But this work is an ongoing struggle that requires a persistent challenging of attitudes that discriminate against people. Jesus frames this parable in the context of prayer and the need to persevere in prayer. Prayer is important and should also be accompanied by other forms of action. From Jesus' teaching today, we learn that a prayerful life of devotion to God is characterized by a life that seeks justice. In our lectionary for this Sunday, we are asked to remember prisoners of conscience. Many people around the world languish in prisons because of their quest for justice and peace. At the moment, we are most aware of the protests in Iran following the death of Mahsa Amini, who died in custody following a transgression in the wearing of her headscarf. According to an Amnesty International report, many have been killed there, including at least 23 children. Many hundreds of children have been arrested and imprisoned. In our story, we had an example of an unjust judge. In our world today, we find unjust leaders, those who do not respect the human rights of their citizens. These should be our concerns too. As Martin Luther King once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And what affects one directly affects all indirectly. God has blessed us richly. St. Paul's is a parish with many gifts and resources. Let us this stewardship season offer them to God, expressing our commitment through the forms we make available for you to fill in. Finally, in the process of seeking justice, let us not forget to treat one another justly and with care and respect. Amen.